All right, what is up? I um I had a discussion a uh, with a client the other day who still hasn't joined um my YouTube accountability group yet. But the conversation led to some of the challenges and problems that they were facing, and I started to reflect on some of the problems and challenges that I face. And I was like, what is it that brings me back? Like, what is it that brings me into a mode of, okay, let's just solve this. Like, oh, okay, like, just don't dwell on it, just solve it. Like, what typically brings me back? What snaps me back? And I realized that there's a specific thing that snaps me back. And that thing, as it pertains to problems, is the fact that there will always be someone out there that has a bigger problem than you. And there's just something about knowing that. There's something about having that realization that makes just taking action and solving the problem a little bit easier. When we as humans, when we get into this mode of like our problems consuming us, sometimes our what is it called? Um, in your mind, it's called something. It's called your reticular activation system. When and also selective cognition, right? So you can you could literally start to program yourself to see what you need to see in order to validate a belief that you have. So you could say, well, I have the biggest problem in the world right now. I am consumed by this problem. I am the only one that could have this problem right now. This problem is so big. And what will happen if you start to get into that lane is everything that you see will start to validate that belief. And then you'll be deeper and deeper in the problem. And that's tough because the aim when you have a problem is to get out of it, right? So it's not good to have a problem that you don't feel you can get out of, right? So um, if you can, if you can come to the realization and the truth that there will always be someone that has a bigger problem than you, oftentimes it can help you snap back, right? So here's an example. So let's say you are in well, let's talk about things that you can measure, right? Let's say you are in debt. You have $15,000 worth of debt, and in your head, you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay this? Where am I at? Oh my gosh, geez, there's no way I'm ever going to get out of this. You thinking that that is the most amount of debt that anybody could ever have is going to put you in a position of feeling as though, well, yeah, there can't be a solution because this is the biggest problem that anyone could ever have. But if you say, well, man, I have $15,000 worth of debt, revolving debt or whatever. There are people out here that have $60,000 worth of revolving debt. Man, my rent or my mortgage is $2,500 a month. There's people out here paying $8,000 a month. Man, my car payment is $600 a month. Man, there's people out here paying $3,000 a month. And if you could start to, and I'm not saying compare yourself to other people just in that manner. What I'm saying is create that relativity in your mind so that you can start to lean into solving the problem versus being consumed by it, right? Now, after you get into this mode of, okay, like there are people out here that have way bigger problems relatively than I have. You should start to sort of contextualize that problem. So If you look at this problem and you say, okay, well, what are my options? What is my, like, if it's money, right? If it's money, what is my route out of this? Start to write this down. Start to say, well, like, what can I attack this from a few different angles? Can I if it's a matter of generating more, well, how much? If you don't start to control the mechanisms to solve certain problems, it won't go anywhere. It won't go anywhere. Now, there is one thing that many of us do fall into, and it's something that a lot of us struggle with. A lot of humans struggle with. I mean, I struggle with it as well. Is that many of us, because of our, I don't want to call it our attention span, but many of us, because of how we view completing things, we want it once we start to take action on something, we want that whole thing completed within a very short period of time. And if we can't get that completed in a very short period of time, we tend to not do it, right? So if the mountain is too big, we tend not to take the first step. We tend not to attempt to climb, so that can also create a certain level of consumption when it comes to the problems that we face, right? So let's go back to the debt side, right? Let's say you're in $15,000 worth of debt. Your mind is thinking, well, I want to be able to pay all of that off in 1 month. I want to be able to pay that off in one payment, two payments. What will happen is you will defer attempting to solve that problem until you think you're going to have the ability to solve it within a short period of time, then perpetuating the problem even more. In an example like debt, um, that one's tough because it's residual. It's going to keep compounding on you. It's going to keep compounding on you. So instead of combating the full amount, combat the compound, right? Like it's important to, again, look at things from a certain vantage point and understand, well, damn, like, this is my problem, but there's people out here that have 10 times more than I do. Let me be okay with being in this problem, but let me relax and start to think through some solutions here. You know, when it comes to some of our businesses, some of us are saying, well, I'm gonna need, let's say, $100,000 to build that thing or to do that thing, and some of us won't take any actions towards that because we want to be able to do all of that in one swoop, and that's not how business works. It's not how business works. Many of us want that one social media post to pop. That's just not how it works. Many of us want that one offer to make us a millionaire. That's just not how it works. It's just not how it works. So when you start to look at certain things, it's important to sort of trick your mind into thinking that there are um, there is a relativity to some of the things that we're facing, right? Like an example, and conversely, outside of just problems, right? Let's talk about the converse. Is it converse or the let's talk about the alternative perspective, right? Some people are saying, "Oh, well, I can't be successful until I have 10,000 followers on Instagram. I can't be successful until I have 50,000 followers on TikTok or something like that." The reality, and this is a very real truth, there are people that may be more successful than you that actually have less followers than you, right? So on one front, yes, there are people that you have problems. There are people with bigger problems. Oh, you think you lack something? There are people that are achieving that lack more than you. But I'm literally, I mean, I'm looking at this real time here, right? I have camera, MacBook, high definition monitor. I have multiple high end phones. I have multiple cameras around me. I have a ton of stuff around me, right? I have a stream deck. I have a telepro. I have a ton of stuff, right? You want to know what's funny? Even though I have all of this stuff, there are people out there that create more video content than I do, with less. Right? There are people out there that create more video content than me with less. Um, when it comes to problems, I could say, hey, like I have a certain amount of debt, right? Um, in order to not get consumed by the thought of that, I know that there are people like I've told people, yeah, this is how much, this is how much I pay on a monthly basis for A, B, and C for, a certain standard of living. And some people they're just, oh wow, man, that's great. Man, that's yeah, man, mine's like $1,500 more than that a month. Oh man, you owe the IRS this amount? Man, I owe them 60,000 more than that. And I'm like, oh shit. So again, like it's one of those things where it makes you laugh. It can make you laugh, but at the same time, it makes you snap. It At least with me, it makes me snap back. I'm like, hmm, let me just solve this problem. Let me just solve this. Let me not swim in it for too long. Let me just solve this thing. And even in the solving of it, those people who are now think about this, right? Think this is another reason why um, having sort of a relative perspective can help out in some cases. Sometimes your problem relatively is smaller than some other people's problem, right? Those other individuals, the way that they're solving a part of their problem is solving your entire problem, right? So again, let's talk about debt. Um, one person may say, "Oh my gosh, like I have $15,000 worth of debt every month. You know, I'm paying $1,000 for this, $1,000 for that." There's someone else that has 60,000, $70,000 worth of recurring debt. They're not solving the whole problem all at once, but they're solving a portion of it. That part of their problem that they're solving is, let's say, they're paying 5,000 a month. So they're covering just because of something that they're doing to solve that bigger problem. That 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 partial solution is your complete solution, right? So again, sometimes that that relativity that relative perspective on a challenge can again help you snap back, realize, hey, like maybe I shouldn't get consumed in this. Maybe I should like take steps to solve this thing, but also at the same time too, um, it should again open you up to avoid getting buried, because you just don't want to get buried by it. That's the reason why that perspective is there. Again, same thing conversely, same thing with anything that you believe you lack. If you think you lack something in order to achieve something else, just know that there are people out there that have less and doing more. They have less and they're doing more, right? So, um, I'm hoping that reached a few of you guys. I know, on here I don't tend to reach too much on a Sunday, but if you have any questions about that, hit me up. Definitely gonna have a conversation about this in the upcoming YouTube accountability group session. And I'm also considering starting another accountability group session outside of just the YouTube, focusing on offers. There are a lot of entrepreneurs who are having trouble with offers, and with artificial intelligence and all of that now, I don't believe that anyone should have challenges with thinking through this stuff. I don't. I mean, I think that there are too many resources out there, and it's a choice not to use it. So I'm considering creating an accountability group just for that as well, so that more people can take action. So yeah, if you have any questions about this stuff, hit me up. All right, peace.